Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's that time of year finally. The Heartland Film Festival. We've got a trove of coverage for you today with an array of reviews from Josie Underhill, Brandon Krakowski, and a whole lot more.
So have your popcorn and scoring sheets ready because from Ball State University, The Real Deal starts now.
Hello and welcome to The Real Deal, Ball State's premier entertainment news show. I'm Angelo Auriemma.
And I'm Eli Brunsman. Today's the day, Angelo.
Wait a minute, did I forget your birthday again?
No, it's the day we discuss Heartland Film Festival,
Okay.
Indiana's annual showcase of independent cinema from all over the globe.
That's right, Eli. We sent a few of our best to cover some of the festival's best films.
But before we dive right in, like all great movies, we decided to include a brief preview before the Heartland content begins.
So, here with this week's Hollywood headlines is none other than Rob Segovia. Rob?
Days ahead of the Season 2 release of Stranger Things, star Finn Wolfhard has fired agent Tyler Grasham and consequently parted ways with the talent agency APA after sexual abuse allegations. Grasham is facing a string of claims that he has sexually assaulted young aspiring male actors. The APA has confirmed they have an independent investigator to look into the claims. In the wake of allegations facing Harvey Weinstein, Hollywood has shed light on sexual misconduct and harassment with numerous celebrities coming forward to share their stories, pushing for more conversation. Taylor Swift is back with Gorgeous, her third single from the upcoming album Reputation. The 10-time Grammy winner released Gorgeous this past Friday. Lead single Look What You Made Me Do was a chart-topping dance pop song, while previous release Ready For It was minimalistic and dynamic. With Gorgeous, Swift gets in touch with her radio-friendly side and creates a catchy chorus, accompanied by infectious production. Fans will have to wait until the album release on November 10th to hear which direction Swift decides to take. The long-running show Fashion Police will come to an end next month. The special finale will feature late co-creator and host Joan Rivers. It became an integral part of award shows with its beginnings in 1995 and featured commentary on celebrity looks, with Melissa Rivers continuing the legacy after the death of her mother. Memorable moments, unreleased footage, and celebrity guests will send a proper farewell to the show's influential 22-year run. Fashion Police The Farewell will air November 27th on E! In their continued effort to serve the citizens of the world, the Avengers took on their next mission, this time an effort to raise money in relief for Puerto Rico in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. Scarlett Johansson enlisted Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, and Mark Ruffalo in a reading of Thornton Wilder's Our Town, which will take place at Atlanta's Fox Theater on November 6th. Johansson said in a press release, "It is a great privilege to be able to participate in whatever way I can to provide some relief to those that are struggling to access even the most basic of needs in the aftermath of the disastrous event. The proceeds from the reading will benefit the Hurricane Maria Community Relief and Recovery Fund." These have been your Hollywood headlines. I'm Rob Segovia.
Thanks, Rob. Now to the main event.
Our first review includes heartache, loss, and love.
And don't forget the sprinkle of comedy.
How could I forget? Anyway, the expert on this upcoming film isn't me or Eli. It's our very own Josie Underhill. Josie, why don't you take it away?
The last film that I watched at the Heartland Festival was The Bachelors. I was excited to watch this feature after scanning through the descriptions and seeing the word comedy jump out at me. Walking into the screening, I was expecting a rom-com, but was not prepared for the whirlwind of emotions that hit after the film started. The Bachelors is centered around a father and a son who, after the death of his wife, moved from a small town to Los Angeles for a new start. There, the son Wes attends a new private school where an old family friend has given Bill, his father, a job as a math teacher. Here, the pair meet two unique women who bring them comfort and allow them to rediscover themselves in love. It's a heartfelt story that not only focuses on romance, but also portrays depression, grief, mental illness, and divorce in a way that is heartbreaking and raw. This film was directed and written by Kirk Volker and stars J.K. Simmons, Josh Wiggins, Julie Depley, and Odeya Rush. Walking into this film, I did not expect to feel as many emotions as I did, but watching Bill completely break down or Lacey cut herself after hearing her parents verbally attack one another, it's just hard to watch. The film was filled with so many heart-wrenching, dramatic scenes that left me exhausted by the end of it. The way that all these characters dealt with their own problems felt so lifelike that by the end of it, it felt like I had gone on this emotional roller coaster with them. All the actors did an amazing job in this film portraying their characters and made the film that much more effective and realistic. Although this film was filled with many heartbreaking scenes, there was also a lot of comedy involved in the feature. The jokes scattered throughout were all funny and kept the audience laughing. It gave a light-hearted mood to this very serious and dramatic piece. With awkward teenagers trying to find their way in love in high school, there was always bound to be some funny moments. Wes and his friends were especially comedic as the nerdy outcasts of the school. Overall, this film was very emotional and had the audience in tears one moment and laughing the next. All the characters were very well written, and the story was one that I won't soon forget. If you are like me and love a film that makes you feel something and then ends in that cliche happy ever after way, then I recommend this film. The rating I give this film is a 5 out of 5 and hope that anyone who has the chance to see it will. That's all I have for you now. I'm Josie Underhill. See you next time.
Thanks, Josie, for that amazing review.
Agreed. You definitely convinced me to see the film when it's released. I mean, who doesn't love a happy ending?
Exactly, and speaking of happiness, how would you love to live just outside the happiest place on earth?
Ooh, I don't know. Maybe I need a break to think it over.
We'll be right back after the break.
Any identification on the victim?
Puzzle piece. But Jigsaw has been dead for 10 years.
It's not him. Can't be.
This was on the body.
The truth will set you free.
Help!
Welcome to Suburbicon, a town of great wonder and excitement.
Hey there.
Built with the promise of prosperity for all.
Nikki, you need to get up. There are men in the house.
I rode shotgun in the lead Humvee, and I looked for bombs. Stop the truck. You don't see the bomb unless they want you to.
What you got? I don't see nothing, man.
You don't see it. He feels it. I was a good soldier. I had purpose, and I loved it.
You kicked some ass over there?
Yeah.
So you know, Eli, I've been thinking about it, and I've already signed my lease to live right outside of SeaWorld in good old San Antonio.
Angelo, the happiest place on earth is Disney World in Orlando, Florida.
So are you telling me I should return my cowboy boots and cowboy hat?
Maybe. Getting right back on track, our next review involves a not-so-magical castle, sacrifice, and the imagination of a young girl.
Right, because staying in a motel for a night is hard enough, but living there is a whole other story. Here to tell us more is Brandon Krakowski. Brandon?
I sometimes hesitate to call the Florida Project the best film of the festival because, it wasn't in competition. A24, blessed the festival by hosting a one-time screening for a rabid audience, yes, but it wasn't scrapping out for Audience Choice Awards like everything else there. The hesitation goes right out the window, though, when I remember just how damn good that thing is. Sean Baker crafted a masterful, compassionate, and heartbreaking portrayal of lower-class struggle, and is by far the best feature of the year by about a country mile. The film tells the story of several families and people living out of a $35 a night motel in Florida, just outside Walt Disney World. Right off the bat, the setting for this film is entirely unique. The cheap, faded colors of the motel walls and general tourist decay is captured beautifully through 35mm film. The characters that inhabit this space are phenomenally realized. This is the sort of film that, yes, nearly every single character is in the wrong in their life in one single aspect or another, but their portrayals are so sympathetic and full that you're able to invest in the plight of all of these tragic backstories. The film is primarily framed through the lens of the children that run around and cause mischief around the motel, which I thought was a very smart choice for a narrative feature like this. It allows the audience to see the contradiction between the youthful abandon that these children want to pursue and the reality of the socioeconomic situation that they are trapped in. The film, in equal parts, draws from the loose, rude situations of the Little Rascals serials and the melancholy coming-of-age of Truffaut's Antoine Daniel to stunning effect. None of this would be possible without stunning acting. Fortunately, the film really does deliver on that. Of note in particular is the child acting. Oh my God. Sean Baker made the smart decision to not write these kids as savants or adults, anything other than real kids that they are. They yell, scream, they can barely form coherent sentences. They're annoying, but in the way that a little brother is annoying. Leading this ensemble of children is Brooklyn Price, who is able to carry the film in both its most jovial and heartbreaking beats. Look out for her career. Also excellent in this film is veteran actor Willem Dafoe, who decided to hang up his mean person costume and play a compassionate human being. His beleaguered motel manager acts as a moral center for the film. The character's compassion for his residents is evidently clear, even if he isn't always the best at showing it. Dafoe handles this balance flawlessly. Perhaps the best performance of the entire film, though, belongs to Bria Vinaite. I'm not sure if that's right, but there's no pronunciation guide. She plays the destructive, hard-partying mother of Price's character. Though Bria was originally only known for her Instagram modeling, she puts on an incredibly sympathetic and compassionate performance for someone who is a character who's completely unlikable in this story. I have to briefly discuss the ending, of course, because that's been causing some controversy for people that have been seeing it. In my opinion, it's one of the best film endings in years, period. It's hopeful, it's joyous, and it represents a beautiful idea of escape and childhood wonder. I honestly don't see what people don't like about it. It's a thematically beautiful and appropriate way to cap off this film, and it's absolutely something like it's French Wave, it's Truffaut, it's ambiguous, it's beautiful. I love it. I cannot emphasize how great this film is. Baker's last film, Tangerine, was very good, but it doesn't really compare when held up to something like this. While Tangerine was a fun romp through Florida involving people living on the edges of society, this film essentially acts as a master thesis about living poor and what it's like to be that in America in 2017. Phenomenal acting, directing, and writing work definitely don't hurt this film's case. I heavily advise anyone who can see it, go see it when it comes to your town. Give this film a little of your money. Give it that money that gave Moonlight all of that steam. I give this honest, beautiful piece of cinema 5 stars out of 5. Until next time, this is Brandon. I saw 22 movies at Heartland this year, and my brain is pudding. Krakowski.
Thank you, Brandon, for that passionate endorsement.
Changing gears to our first documentary review, we have Noah Bullard standing in for Ross Bembenek with a review that pulls back the curtain on the Armenian genocide.
Now, this was only one of the many moving documentaries featured at the festival this year. But without further ado, here's Noah Bullard. Noah?
Thanks, guys. Every year at Heartland, there always seems to be a handful of great documentaries, and this year was no different. Intent to Destroy, directed by Joe Berlinger, was a heartbreaking and intense film from start to finish. The documentary focuses on the genocide committed by the Turkish government on the Armenian people during World War I, and the ways their government has successfully attempted to censor and deny the fact that the genocide ever took place. The documentary is broken up into 3 separate parts: Death, which gives the details and the history of the genocide itself; Denial, showing how the Turkish government has denied the genocide and successfully censored any attempts to legitimize the topic; and Depiction, which shows how Hollywood and various news organizations have attempted to shed light on the story for the last 80 years, but have been shut down by Turkey. The entire film is also paired up with footage from the production of the 2016 film The Promise, which takes place during and is largely about the Armenian genocide. And this film was a tough one to watch. It was unflinchingly graphic in its portrayal of the genocide. The photographs and the interviews with survivors and their descendants were heartbreaking, and the filmmakers never shied away from the brutal nature of the topic. In addition, the interviews with historians and journalists were superb as well. They did a great job of providing background information to the viewer. And on top of the wonderful way the filmmakers handled the topic, the technical work was great as well. The film was shot and edited extremely well. The editing gave the film great pacing, which never left me feeling bored during the film. A difficult feat for a 2-hour-long documentary. Overall, Intent to Destroy is a brutal, heartbreaking, and graphic look at one of the greatest atrocities committed by a nation in human history. It's not a film that you sit down and view lightly, but at the same time, it was a powerful and informing look at something that sadly isn't as well known as it should be. I give Intent to Destroy 5 stars out of 5, and if you ever get the chance to watch it, I highly recommend that you do. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Noah Bullard.
Thanks, Noah.
Before continuing on with more of our feature reviews, we're going to give a brief intermission and dive into a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that I got to experience at the festival this year.
Are you talking about that 1.5-pound soft pretzel they offered at concessions?
No, even better. Close, but even better. I'm talking about how I got the chance to interview the one and only Rob Reiner, mastermind behind both classics Stand By Me, Princess Bride, and many, many more.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy this exclusive Real Deal Heartland film coverage.
So, for people at home who don't know, can you give a pitch for your movie? Just the one, or not the one sentence, but the quick pitch to get them to come see it.
Well, if they're interested in seeing the way a president who is burdened by the difficulty of having to step into the shoes of a beloved president who was assassinated, and how he's able to assume that presidency and do it effectively and move the country forward and pass real legislation, understand how government works, and also get some laughs and entertain, then this is the movie. Plus, Woody Harrelson is just insane, off the charts, brilliant in this.
So you've covered so many different genres throughout your years. Are there any that stand out to you? Because this one's a political drama. Yeah. So are there any specific genres that stand out to you as more enjoyable to do or maybe more challenging to do? Anything that sticks out for you?
I don't think of it that way. I think of it as what the story I want to tell and what's the best way to tell it. So if it's, about a writer who is trying to extricate himself from his fans who want him to keep doing the same thing, maybe it takes on a thriller like Misery. If it's about a son who's trying to overcome the shadow of his father, who's a lawyer, maybe it's Few Good Men. I mean, so I look at it that way rather than thinking about genres.
Now, you're getting a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yeah, you know what that means?
What does that mean?
It means that I'm old. See, when they say Lifetime Achievement, that means you have had to have lived.
They're assuming you're done?
No, I don't know if they're assuming. I hope they don't assume I'm done. But they don't give you a Lifetime Achievement when you're 31 or 26. They don't do it.
You would have had to have a pretty tremendous life.
Live a lifetime and be closer to the end than to the beginning.
So what does an award like this mean to you? Because it's something that when you were younger and you were thinking about being a filmmaker, and now you've been in the industry for this long, does something like this have an emotional impact on you, or is it just...
I've gotten to the point, and all those cliches that you hear in life are true. It's about the doing. It's about experience and having the experience of doing something. If you get an award, fine. If you don't get an award, that's fine. If you enjoy the process, because that's the time that you're having on the planet. If you're a reporter and do you like doing it?
Yeah.
Well, you're doing it now. See, you're doing it. And so if you're enjoying this, that's it. That's it. This is the time you have on the planet.
That's the fun part.
That's the fun part.
So now we have the honor, we're going to watch Stand By Me tomorrow, and then Princess Bride is also playing. How do you feel rewatching your old movies? Is it one of those things where, like, you pick up on things you would have changed or something like that? Or is it more just fun and nostalgia?
You know what I do? I don't really, if the movie comes on television, I don't really watch it. I'll watch it maybe 5 or 10 minutes, whatever, and it's like home movies. It's like putting on a home movie, because for me it was the experience of making the movie. The movie, when it's finished, is for the audience. That's for them to experience it. For me, it's about the doing. Oh, that was the day when he hurt his foot and we couldn't do that's what I'm watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, last question. Well, we have 2 more questions for you, sorry. If you had any advice for younger filmmakers, what would it be?
Well, for a young filmmaker, they're very lucky because there are tools now. It's an expensive media. When I was young, you had to get film, you had to get cameras. Now, with, this and a computer, you can make a film. So for young filmmakers, just come up, have the ideas, get the scripts, and just start doing it.
Fantastic. Yeah. So now we like to ask everyone a fun question that kind of just gets you to know about you as a person a little more, okay? So no boundaries or anything like that.
Here we go.
What is your favorite movie ever, or why? Or, what's the one that inspired you the most, I guess? Either one.
I always talk about this movie, It's a Wonderful Life, which is a Frank Capra movie. I saw it when I was very young, and as I've gotten older, the movie gets better and better because you value life more as you get older, and that's all about valuing life and the importance of living.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for talking to us. It was a tremendous honor. Have a great rest of the festival. Thank you guys very much. Have a great night. Hi, how are you today?
Hello.
I'm Angelo. I'm for The Real Deal, which is Ball State's entertainment news show, a university in Muncie. So just wanted, how is today going for you? How does a film festival like Heartland stick out amongst all the other ones you've been to?
Well, this is my first time at the Heartland Film Festival, but one of the reasons that I wanted to come, besides the fact that the director, Craig Prater, invited me, is because the mission of this festival is to help effect change and transformation through film. which is, you know, something that was very close to my dear husband Roger Ebert's heart and close to my heart as well. We talk about film being able to help create empathy, and I believe also in kindness and compassion and forgiveness, things that are more, you know, those are principles that are more needed than ever in today's world. So.
Next question. So the life itself is going to be shown at this festival, correct? Can you give some people at home who aren't aware a quick pitch of it? So they can...
Okay, Life Itself is this wonderful documentary about my husband Roger that was directed by Steve James, who did Hoop Dreams and Interrupters and a lot of other great films. At one time, you know, before my husband passed away, several filmmakers came to him. They wanted to do a film about his life, and he said no to everyone except Steve James and Martin Scorsese came. And how can you say no to either Steve James or Martin Scorsese? You just don't. So I'm glad that we did the film, because had I known that my husband was going to pass away during the making of the film, perhaps we wouldn't have started. So I'm glad that we did know that. I'm glad there are some things that we don't know in advance, because it's a wonderful film. I'm probably going to get a little emotional watching it because I haven't seen it for a while.
Okay, yeah. So is it something that you find appeals more to how it makes you sad, or is it something that kind of it's like a home movie to some ways, you know, it reminds you of him?
Well, you know, I was thinking about that question coming over, what tomorrow the film is being shown. And I decided that with the world being in such a state of chaos right now, I want to hear that wisdom of Roger. I want to hear him talking about loving people and having compassion for people. And also I just want to laugh because Roger and Gene Siskel were so funny together. So the film is also very funny.
So you're moderating a panel actually tomorrow, or in the next, I think it's tomorrow, yeah. So what is that going to entail? What can we expect from that?
Well, I'm moderating a panel with 3 film critics, and we're going to talk about what you look for when you are rating films, and why film critics are still so vital in today's society.
So you've obviously seen a lot of films. Like that's an understatement for sure.
I love movies, yes.
So the final question, we like to ask, put in a fun question that kind of gets to know you as a person. So no boundaries, you don't have to say anything at the show or anything. What is, if you think of all the movies you've seen, what is your favorite movie and why? Or one that sticks out in your memory for that?
Oh, well, you know, I almost feel, after talking about compassion and all of that, I hate to tell you what my favorite movie is because it's A Clockwork Orange.
Okay.
That's my favorite movie. I love that movie. I've seen it probably more than any other movie in the world, and so go figure.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. It was a tremendous honor talking to you. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Welcome back, viewers.
We hope you enjoyed that exclusive content. Tell me, Angelo, how was it interviewing such an icon in the movie industry?
You know, Eli, I feel like it's easy for me to say it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It was a tremendous honor and whatnot, but it honestly was. Because, you know, I feel like when you talk with people of such high regard like Rob Reiner, any celebrity with a great filmography, it would have been super easy for him to look at me and just talk condescendingly or talk down to me. I mean, the guy was getting a Lifetime Achievement Award, something that I will probably never get. Odds are on that. But he was really nice, he was really down to earth, and you know, like I said, when it comes to someone someone of such great renown and someone with such success, it really meant a lot. And I'm really glad he took the time to be with us that day. It was really, really, really fun.
I think it sounds like an experience you'll never forget.
Absolutely. Now, while I could go on and on about it, clearly, there's much more to be said about the other films featured. For example, one of the films that truly received the Truly Moving Picture Award, was Thank You for Your Service.
It's a film that encompasses the reality of returning home from war. Here with an in-depth review is Nathan Richard. Nathan?
While at Heartland, I was fortunate enough to attend the screening for the new PTSD drama, Thank You for Your Service. The film stars Miles Teller, Haley Bennett, Belula Cole, Amy Schumer, and Scott Hayes, and is the directorial debut of Jason Hall, the Academy Award-nominated screenwriter of American Sniper. The film tells the heartbreaking true story of Adam Schumann, a man who has returned home from the war in Iraq. Despite reuniting with his family, Schumann is a broken man who's suffering from PTSD. This is an incredibly well-made and emotional movie. Everything from the performances to the writing is done in such a humane way. Miles Teller gives the absolute best performance in his career. He trades in his usual overly self-confident jock shtick for a performance that's far more grounded than anything he's ever done. This is a role that should be getting awards consideration. Another performance that stuck out to me was Belula Cole, who plays another veteran suffering from PTSD. I hadn't heard of Cole before seeing this movie, but after seeing him here, I expect his name to be on the rise. The film itself takes place mainly within the States, with only 2 scenes that actually take place in Iraq. And for the kind of movie that this is, I think it worked for the better. The script is more focused on how PTSD is affecting the lives of the lead veterans, rather than focus on their experience out in the battlefield. It tells an extremely important message on the treatment of our veterans, rather than being a typical Americanized war film. The film doesn't necessarily do anything to break new ground or try anything ambitious, but that wasn't necessary for the film it was trying to be. Thank You for Your Service is possibly the most emotionally devastating film I've seen since last year's Manchester by the Sea. It's a tough watch, but it's something that I feel is an important film that deserves attention. I'm going to give this film a solid 4 out of 5 stars. It opens up in theaters this weekend, so I'd highly recommend checking it out. I'm Nathan Richard, and that's all I have for today.
Thanks, Nathan. Definitely sounds like a film worth checking out.
Keeping up with the theme of war, our next review takes us back to World War II, Behind Enemy Lines.
You know, it's a film that shows the camaraderie of people through music and an unfortunate situation. Here with a review of the film Instrument of War is none other than Madyson McGill. Madyson?
Seeing the Heartland film I'm about to review was a happy accident. I received it as one of my many special request tickets with no intention of actually getting a ticket, let alone seeing the film. But when I did, I added it to my schedule as a why not. This movie was Instrument of War. It's a heartwarming war story in the midst of being captured behind enemy lines. Based on true events, the movie takes you on a journey centered around a US B-24 bomber pilot, Claire Klein, who's been shot down behind enemy lines and captured along with another comrade. They're taken to a prison camp in northern Germany and thrown together with other POWs waiting out the war behind Nazi barbed wire. The cast is made up of British and German actors, while the non-speaking parts went to Lithuanian extras, where the film was shot in an old vodka factory. While the other POWs and German officers are concocted by producer Russ Kindle and director Adam Thomas Addereg from multiple different soldiers at the camp, Claire Klein, played by Jack Ashton, remains the historical figure the film is based around. Before the war, Klein was a lieutenant in World War II. He was a violinist, which becomes a center focus for the film. Inside the prison camp, Klein and his band of brothers must barter and trade to create a violin, which throughout the film becomes a center symbol for hope, freedom, and a connection to a home they all wish to return to. The movie plays into key research they did for the film. While they admitted Klein didn't talk about his time in the camp with his family whom they reached out to, they were positive about the time he played his violin for Christmas in the camp, which became a key scene in the film. They were also able to create content for the story from the facts on what they knew about prison camps in general. For example, the inside trading that went on between the Germans and the POWs, or the boxing matches between the soldiers, and even the making of the violin were all created on research. The boxing match played into one of my favorite scenes from the movie, when Klein and British soldier Jack Finlay had a match so another soldier, Vinnie Portoloni, could steal the essential neck for the violin from the leg of a chair. The movie also did a fantastic job in not portraying a definite good versus evil like other World War II movies. The Germans weren't the in-your-face bad guys. The film portrayed both sides as doing what they had to do to survive and fight their side of the war. Because in reality, they are all just human beings trying to survive. Klein is haunted by the dreams of what he's done in the war prior and who he's left behind. And another soldier, Frank Romano, refuses to go against or help anyone because of the innocent lives he's taken because of the war. They also show the humanity of the Germans. They weren't just ruthless killers. No, they were soldiers doing a duty just like the POWs. While each side has their moment of weakness and lashes out, it isn't a movie full of hate. There's heart at the core of the film. If anything, it's a movie of camaraderie that is all tied together by this violin, which by the end of the film plays a key part in the Germans' decision on what to do with their prisoners as the Russian threat approaches. The only complaint for this film I really have is the airplane crash sequence in the beginning, which is very Michael-esque in the explosion that happens. Other than that, the film portrays the raw emotion and reality of being a prisoner of war, while not playing into war movie cliches of films before it. And while it seems unrealistic that the power of music can sway a German commander to his decision, I would still give the film a solid 4 out of 5, and would highly recommend checking it out when it releases on Thanksgiving. That's all I have for this episode. I'm Madyson McGill, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks, Madyson. It sounds like war films were a popular topic at this year's festival.
The festival did feature hundreds of film premieres, though.
And while we didn't get to experience them all, Angelo and I did get the chance to see a handful of Heartland films ourselves.
That's right. Stay tuned for our reviews after this break.
People got dead up there for real. I ain't scared of nothing. What is it, Mabel? Bam, hush, damn. I don't like this.
One of our thermospheric satellites malfunctioned over Afghanistan.
So your proposal is what?
We shut down all satellites.
I don't need to remind all of you how many people died from catastrophic climate conditions.
Make sure there's no further incidents.
So you're getting here now.
I'm really excited for my final word today because And Then I Go was the last movie I saw at Heartland, but it was definitely the film I was most excited to see. I love when movies feature talented young actors, and this film definitely does that. And Then I Go focuses on 8th grader Edwin and his best and only friend Flake. Edwin and Flake are constantly bullied at their middle school, and the film successfully shows that anyone can be bullied, and the director doesn't dip into the nerd stereotype that I'm tired of seeing. Edwin and Flake might not enjoy the same things as their classmates, like TV or social media, but they're fairly normal kids, and they would just rather listen to a CD of history's greatest speeches, which was one of my favorite quirky details in the film. They aren't just outcasts, they're just prone to isolating themselves. As Edwin and Flake continue to be bullied, their anger intensifies. Edwin begins to act out at school, and his parents react in a totally inappropriate way. His dad, played by Justin Long, is totally useless as he just adds to Edwin's feelings of hopelessness and loneliness. It was infuriating to see Edwin return from a terrible day at school only to be teased continuously by his dad. Edwin's mom starts to get a little better at comforting him, but she still focuses on punishing him rather than just trying to understand what he's going through. Flake's parents are pretty bad as well, as they repeatedly insult him, building up on his insecurities. I love the choice to make the parents more subtly bad instead of extreme and abusive, as it came across more realistic instead of tropey like some other films. Both sets of parents are oblivious as Edwin and Flake began to plan a school shooting. I could feel the audience tense up as Flake says, "Want to see my dad's guns?" The kids keep a list of their enemies and plan to bust in armed during a school assembly. The movie gets more and more heart-wrenching as Edwin tries and fails to distance himself from Flake. He begins to show improvements like getting involved with his classmates in an art project, but things keep pushing him toward the edge. All Edwin wants is to be there for his little brother Gus, and he is sweet to Gus the entire movie, which shows a softer side of his personality. Edwin even considers going on a family trip to the lake like they used to do when he was younger, but the bullies won't leave him alone, and even the adults contribute. I saw the principal as just another misguided bully. My real deal buds and I were on the edge of our seats wondering if Edwin would go through with the school shooting. And Then I Go does a wonderful job of capturing the intensity of preteen emotions. It is impossible for Edwin and Flake to think positively about the future because everything seems so inescapable. Instead of guessing that these kids are bullied and tormented at school, nearly every single adult in the film labels them as delinquents. And it was so frustrating but captivating to watch these kids continue to get into trouble. They refuse to tell anyone they're being bullied because of stigma and shame that they feel, and this film causes us to reflect on the way we treat kids in their most vulnerable time. Do we listen to them the way that we should, or do we just brush them off as dramatic and disrespectful? Don't get me wrong, these kids are not entirely innocent in this movie. They have many opportunities to improve their quality of life, but they refuse to. Their obsession with violence is mostly hidden from anyone who cares about them, and they intentionally stay secretive and isolated from everyone else in the film. I love this movie because it inspires an important discussion about bullying and the internal turmoil it can create. It takes courage to make a movie like this instead of ignoring this narrative. I'm glad we got a chance to listen to the director, Vincent Grishaw, explain why he wanted to make the film after reading the book it's based on, Project X. Everyone should see And Then I Go for an inside look at dark but very realistic middle school struggles.
Well, Fittingly, the last film reviewed on this year's Heartland special is the last film to premiere at the festival, a documentary titled Laddie, the man behind the movies. The documentary focuses on Alan Ladd Jr., the man who greenlit such titles as Star Wars, Blade Runner, Alien, and so many more features that became monumentally significant to the filmmaking industry. Despite these achievements, however, the documentary looks to point out how underappreciated unknown Ladd, nicknamed Laddie, is. Amanda Ladd, Laddie's daughter, and the director of the film included a scene in the film where she goes and makes the rounds at a convention, asking numerous Star Wars fans if they knew who Ladd was, to very little success. Additionally, looking through Ladd's Facebook, or Wikipedia page rather, offers a strange dichotomy, as it bolsters numerous groundbreaking achievements and an exceptional list of films that he worked on, but it's only about 2 paragraphs long and barren of supplemental information. And this documentary looks to change that. Along with increasing his recognition and looking back on his accomplishments, though, the film also looks to make an effort to talk about Laddie as a person outside of his profession. It breaks down his family life, his struggles to live up to his actor father's reputation, and also touches on the difficulties of connecting with your family when you focus so much on work. Director Amanda Ladd comes to grips with herself as to how she was never able to connect with her dad at a young age, but understands that this wasn't a sign that he didn't love her, but quite the opposite. Along with numerous interview clips from the titular, charmingly dry and witty Ladd, the film features numerous interviews with such names as Mel Brooks, Mel Gibson, Morgan Freeman, Ron Howard, George Lucas, Ridley Scott, Sigourney Weaver, Ben Affleck, and so many more. Each of these subjects has an interesting story or anecdote about the impact that Ladd had on their lives, and such strong testaments from such successful sources shows just how impactful Ladd was behind the scenes. As a whole, I really enjoyed the film for what it was. It was a light, fun documentary that offered a lot of insightful information on the history of filmmaking throughout Ladd's life. And also, it provided a lot of entertaining interviews from such iconic faces. I mean, if you put Mel Brooks or Morgan Freeman in front of the camera, Lord knows I'm going to pay attention and probably have a good time. There were slight issues with the pacing, however. I think that it focused too heavily in the introduction on his work with Star Wars specifically, and then just glossed over them so that they could discuss more films, which I think was a good decision, but it doesn't stop it from being strangely misleading in the beginning. Additionally, the film spends a ton of time in the 70s and 80s, but then jumps to the modern day to talk about recent history in a bit of a jarring manner. It was a bit confusing, and I can't help but feel as though they glossed over some information that could have been really expanded upon. Amanda Ladd's narration leaned a bit towards reading off the script sounding at times, but at the end of the day, her job was to direct a fitting film to recognize her father's astounding life, and I think she was really successful. It's a very enlightening documentary, and it's very entertaining, one that I recommend to anyone interested in the filmmaking industry.
This sounds like a film worth seeing, Angelo.
It definitely was, along with many other films that we reviewed for this episode. In behalf of everyone on the Real Deal team, I would just like to send a sincere thank you to the Heartland Film Festival for allowing this group of misfits from Ball State to participate in such an astounding experience.
Yes, we thank you so much, and we hope we can continue the Heartland tradition for many, many more years to come.
That's right, and this episode is just one portion of the Heartland coverage. For more from The Real Deal, check out our website, Facebook, and Twitter pages for news and updates on all things entertainment. I'm Angelo Auriemma.
And I'm Brunsman. We'll see you next week.